So, what can you share some success stories where AI has significantly improved the user experience? Obviously, I know we've touched on a few.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we are in a moment where you're starting to see generative AI and discriminative AI in the mathematical sense, like actually powering user experiences that matter and that change things. And I think we're finally having a conversation about things like news feeds that needs to happen, where we, basically cordon off entire populations into echo chambers. Uh, all of that being driven by AI is actually very good. Those are huge success stories. To be able to find the problem and start to find a pathway to fixing it, I think is much more valuable than building like the perfect Gen AI product. But you're also starting to see things that are powered by Gen AI that are really interesting. The chat experiences, being able to get to a resolution faster in a chat experience is actually a very good experience.
Yeah.
As a person who has chatted the chatbot sometimes when like your pizza's too cold when it shows up, or the grocery delivery is off, they got you barbecue sauce instead of caramel topping for your ice cream. Those interactions are much more speedy with those chat agents because the chat agent is there to resolve that problem and isn't bound by the scalability of people, and specifically, offshore or nearshore people labor. I think those are really good success stories. I think we're about to see cool innovations in recommendations across all of the media companies as they put their own spin on how you leverage this. We've got some stuff coming out in Comcast. We've seen some really interesting, press releases from places like Disney. We're right at the precipice where the hype wave is actually going to start turning into production capabilities, and the world's going to be our oyster from there. We'll see if they're successful. We'll see if they manage to delight users and customers without removing that aura of like human touch that we were talking about.
Yeah, I mean, let's say it's still. I mean, you touched on it, chatbots. I mean, a couple of years ago, you'd be lucky to get an answer, wouldn't you? Like, they weren't like, yeah, they just weren't there. But now you can actually have that conversation and get places, which is obviously good to hear.
Yeah, and I mean, even search becomes easier, right? Like whether we're talking about on-platform search, where historically places would hide their customer contact and you'd have to dig for it. Now you can ask the search, be like, hey, where's your customer contact? And because it's a contextual agent, it's like customer contacts here, click this button. But you're also seeing it in search engines. Perplexity is exploding because it's such an interesting change in experience. The Microsoft Copilot on the sidebar, really different way of thinking about search and finding information, especially when you compare it to where we were 10 and 20 years ago. Like Yahoo is the front page of the internet. Like this is just a very different paradigm for those kind of things, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, and I think I know obviously Gen AI has been around for ages, but its kickoff was just over a year ago, wasn't it? And it's still, I guess, still early days, isn't it? I guess people's businesses are still finding their ways, and still the strategy work's got to go involved, get the data. So it has been a lot of it has been the basic, or not basics, but like chatbots, things like that. I think it's going to be interesting to see like how, when the more data you get, the deeper you dive into it, and then it's more customizable for your industry. It's making that real impact and making just the more data they get, the more insight they're going to get, and then it's going to be able to open them. Like again, you've got that product mindset. It's going to open the doors to think, oh, actually, we could do this, we could do that, and it's going to be interesting to see for businesses. And I think it's still early days. I think it's going to be, once they've got the data, then we'll be seeing a lots more interesting products, services come out.
Yeah, and I think I do want to point out though that I think the sleeper hit, the like mega business disruptor and differentiator in the next 6 to 10 months is going to be someone who was under the radar because they weren't chasing the Gen AI hype. And I think that's important for businesses, is that while there's a lot of promise in this technology, there's also a lot of risk of spending yourself into oblivion, and that there's also other technologies out there that are still advancing, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's been another thing, isn't it? Just everyone's, if you throw your eggs into like Gen AI, when actually you could have probably done it cheaper another route, or maybe even better using another tool. It's the hard bit now, isn't it? There's so many tools, get apps, things getting chucked on the marketplace. Is you need to start, I guess, stay focused on your goal. Because if you get easily distracted, there's this new product out, you spend whatever amount of time on that, then you've wasted time, and your competitors get ahead. You need to, I guess, you need to be straight laced and keep in mind of your end goal, basically, don't you?
Yeah, and I think there's lessons to be learned historically from data science in this regard. In the 2010, I think it was the 2010s, we were trying to use computer vision to do discriminative work, essentially. Like we wanted to take, some kind of convolutional neural net and put something in a category. And I think ultimately that all fizzled out and failed because that's not what convolutional neural nets do well. And I think that there's a lesson for Gen AI to learn in that, is that, while there is a lot of promise, we have to remember to your point, like there's a core fundamentals. We have to go back to those fundamentals and ask if, solving the problem in this way that breaks the fundamentals is actually more valuable than solving it with better fundamentals. It's not to be a naysayer or pour water on the exciting moment we're in, but I do think there is a level of that kind of, there's a shadow over that from the hype waves where people aren't stepping back and saying, wait a second, like, am I actually using generative for the right generative problem, or am I trying to use generative for some kind of discriminative math problem?
Yeah, and I think people can easily get sucked into using a new technology because it's the talk of the market, talk of the town.
Yeah.
When, like, again, it could be like another option for you.